My name is Ken Forrester of the eponymous wine brand Ken Forrester in Stellenbosch, right here underneath the shadow of the Helderberg. We grow grapes and make wine. I started out in hotel management, studied hotel management, worked at Southern Sons, was on the opening management team, opened some great hotels, went into my own restaurant after having learnt from Sol Kersner that nothing's impossible, and armed with that same knowledge at the tender young age of 35 with a serious midlife crisis, 1.5 children and a gorgeous wife, I bought a vineyard, 50 hectares of Stellenbosch, on the eve of the elections of 1994, when the country was in some kind of turmoil and chaos. And we bought 50 hectares of Stellenbosch, which I laughingly refer to as the biggest piece of land we couldn't afford. I thought there's got to be a champion for Chenin Blanc. There's a champion for Chardonnay. We had Hamilton Russell, a champion for Sauvignon Blanc. We had, at those days, Mike Dobrovich. Then came Giles Webb,
yeah.
Achterom on.
Yeah.
And so Sauvignon Blanc was just amazing. There was a champion for Cabernet, Gianni Engelbrecht Cabernet. And maybe, the Helderberg guys or kind of Cabernet. And there was no champion for Chenin. So I saw the situation vacant, like help needed. He's a werkie for me. And Chenin Blanc was this unsung hero or heroine that nobody was talking about Chenin Blanc. And why not? Why didn't we recognize the intrinsic qualities and how to make an outstanding Chenin Blanc? Why wasn't somebody doing that? And all the sheep were coming towards me, and I thought, this is just perfect. They haven't seen this. This is an opportunity. This is an opportunity. I can do this. I can find the intrinsic qualities of Chenin and research and time and one vintage at a time. I mean, this grand opportunity happens once a year. You get it wrong, you wait one more year. And if you get it wrong, you've been wrong twice. You wait one more year. And if you get it wrong, you're now 3 years down the line and you try again. But you only get one shot a year. Chenin needed help, needed support, and I figured out we could do something for it. And I drank a bottle of Chenin pulled out of a cellar in France, a 1947 Chenin Blanc in 1993. And I just could not believe the beauty, the unbelievable concentration. Yeah, it was just, I thought, if they can do that, we can do that. Why aren't we paying attention? We're just not focused. And we might be there, we're getting there, we're not there yet, but we've got FMC that's 20 years old. The goal is to find out all we can about Chenin Blanc. We've linked with the University of Stellenbosch, the University of Montpellier. We've linked with Angers, with the Chenin Blanc Association in France. We've linked with Chenin producers all around the world. We share information, share knowledge. We're completely open about our research, about what we know about Chenin. Look how many Chenin Blancs we produce in this country today. And in a way, I'm foolish. I've been my own competition. I've created competition for myself. But that's fine. If you grow the market, I've always been an old classic kind of adage. If the tide comes in, all the boats rise. And so let's get the tide to come in. Let's open up the water, let the tide come in. It's made a difference to world Chenin. I have to tell you, it rescued the Loire Valley. They were going broke at a flat-out rate. And suddenly Chenin Blanc became popular because South Africa was doing it. They climbed on the bandwagon behind us. Suddenly on the French labels, you're seeing Chenin Blanc. The wine industry's strengths and weaknesses, our strength is our diversity. Our weakness is the fact that we're still focused on the big five, that we seem to think the big five is the answer to everything. And that's mainly a consumer issue. It's a chicken and egg, the consumer or the producer. Theoretically, it should work with the producers leading the consumer. because how else would the consumer understand and know about new product if we weren't introducing them to it? So what happens is we lock down to this Cabernet, Merlot, Pinotage, Chardonnay, Sauvignon Blanc mentality of the big five.
Yeah.
Which is crazy, because why aren't we doing Viognier? Why aren't we doing Roussanne, Marsanne, Grenache, Mourvedre? So much more to be done here, Zurtico. Why don't we have yards and yards and yards of Tempranillo? Why aren't we looking at these other grape varieties that really our climate suits and could do very, very well here? But we kind of still hell-bent on making the best Bordeaux blend. People, it's Bordeaux blend. Why are we hell-bent on copying, duplicating, replicating a Bordeaux blend? Even if we do study, focus, work hard, apply ourselves, do the very best and create a Bordeaux blend, will we ever be another Chateaubriand? Will we be a Petrus? Will we be would we be a Mouton Rothschild? I mean, the smartest thing that any winemaker ever said to me was exactly that once you've taken an example of something else and studied and worked and pushed and driven and chased after it, and you get right up close behind it, what you have is a perfect view of its backside. And that was the end of my relationship with the establishment.
Yeah.
I then planted Grenache and Mourvedre, and I started working with Pickeniskloof Grenache and Stellenbosch Grenache. The last 4 hectares of Grenache in Stellenbosch was mine. So Southern Rhone varietals thrive in this climate, and there we're talking, once again, we go back to the whites, we talk about Marsanne, Roussanne, Viognier, the reds, your Grenache, Syrah, Cinsault, Mourvedre, all of these things absolutely thrive here. So we started working with Grenache, 96. I made my first Grenache Syrah blend. I was so enamored with my own kind of concept that I had found Grenache, I'd got Grenache, very bad kind of team notion, very bad commercial notion, and I labeled it Grenache Syrah, which was a fatal error, because when it got to the marketplace, people were going, Grenache. Nobody knew, 96, nobody knew what Grenache was. Nobody. So there I was, the only expert on the planet, talking to the other 9 experts that I'd come across. But the other 1 million people were deaf to what I was saying. And it was a valuable lesson. Renegade, because it was a blend and there was no recipe for the blend, because the one thing that just amazed me and still does to this day is if I have a great Grenache vintage, that Renegade blend needs about 30% Grenache. If Grenache doesn't show in this vintage, if the fruit's delayed or late and it just doesn't come through, and we need about 60% Grenache to get the same red fruit character in the wine. So it's never made to a recipe. It's always about the tong tipi tuts. It's always about testing it, tasting it, and what it looks like. We don't bake cookies. We're not cookie cutters here. It's not a recipe that we stamp the wine out every year. Every year, that blend is the product of the fruit that I've got. And the fruit changes each year. The vintage for Syrah is different each year from one year to the next.
Yeah.
And so you have to play that game between those 3 and find balance. It's what we put into the market, it's what we back ourselves on, and it's what we align ourselves in 3 different price categories with different markets. So different purposes, different playgrounds, the same philosophy through all the wines, in that the quality and the reliability is built in. But apart from that, we're looking at a different audience for each one. This kid's passionate. He has an absolute passion for the stuff. And he just loves it. He's willing to learn, and he soaks it up like a sponge. So much so that literally I've had to go and go back to books and go back to learning to kind of keep up with him. So we're working together in many ways. And for me, it's just so fascinating. And it's not about all this empowerment stuff and all the rest. It's just fascinating that you can take a kid that grew up as the son of a domestic worker, went to Jamestown School. Somebody saw where his mom worked. the guys there saw that this kid was pretty sharp and said to him, you've got to go to college, you've got to go to college. And he went to Elsenburg. And then this guy said to me, can you help a guy out with a job? And I said, yeah, I've been to Elsenburg, send me in for an interview. He came in for an interview and I asked him what his thought was, what he wanted to do. And he told me he wanted to be a famous winemaker. So I said, that's cool. We'll make you a famous winemaker. He's been overseas and you know, Sean will go overseas again this year. And now that we can travel again, but I've always wanted to experiment with him and to spark a fire inside him of experimentation and let him know nothing's impossible. What we learned in the pandemic was that life's too short to drink poor wine. You really should be drinking good wine all the time. Bruce Jack will tell you that the wind in this country is the most intense of all winemaking regions in the world. The sun in this country, we know, and I can tell you from the ear tags on my Wagyu cattle, we get ear tags, the original ear tags we brought in were from Australia. Those ear tags don't last 2 years and they brittle, they fall apart. In Australia, they last for 5-6 years. Our UV intensity is so powerful. So we have a distinct set of challenges, not even to talk about government or politically what our challenges are. So it's an incredible, we have a 350-year history. We have the most ideal wine growing conditions here on this little lip of the Southern Cape. Diversity of plant life in the world just about. In our Cape Floral Kingdom, which mimics almost entirely the wine region. It's the same kind of space. Yeah. And so there's just so much to find, there's so much to explore, there's so much to kind of delve into here. And it's a never ending kind of research project. I make wine in California. I've been to California, I've made wine in France. I make a Cabernet in California just to be peeing with the big dogs in the tall grass. I'm invested in this country in more ways than one. My family are here, my friends are here, my connections are here, my school, high school was here. Hotel management, I studied here at college. I'm invested in this country, my experiences in this country. I've been around the world, fortunately. I've had the good fortune to be able to travel. I've traveled lots. I've been around, and I'm quite comfortable. I can get comfortable just about anywhere. You can put me in the middle of Italy or the middle of China. I get comfortable. I'll work out where the comfort zone is. And no, this is where I'm comfortable. In fact, home is where I'm comfortable. These mutts, if I just had to spend time here, I'd be completely ecstatic. I live here because I'm South African. I fought for this country.